past the halfway point, the course. We start with lesson 21. You did not receive a handout attached to your email, except Korean people, English people, because we read only from the Hatha Yoga Pradipika until lesson 28. Korean people have received only translation of the Hatha Yoga Pradipika text. So last week we finished with Sutra 10, chapter 2. Hatha Yoga Pradipika, I told you some things about the book, that it's a tantric book. And then I explained Tantra also. There are many misconceptions about Tantra. The most important thing actually I forgot. Because the name Hatha Yoga Pradipika very efficiently reflects what yoga is. Hatha are two words, yin and yang. Sun, actually, literally, sun and moon. So Hatha Yoga is sun-moon yoga. That's about Shiva and Shakti energy. The sun and the moon. So you find several things in the name. One is, it's about energy. Two, it's about harmony. Sattva, balance between the sun and the moon. Pradipika means shedding light on. So there are many books with the title Pradipika or Dipika. Scientific books that give insight into a certain subject. If you were looking for the book Yoga Dipika from Iyengar, you might have gone lost because there are so many books with the same title. Even from the same author, there is more than one book with the same title. So it's very common to find books with title ending in Dipika or Pradipika. So Hatha Yoga Pradipika is the science of finding harmony through control of Shiva and Shakti. Finding balance through control of yin and yang energy. Now, why do I think this is important? Because almost all yoga classes do not reflect this essence of yoga. There's no harmony because there's constant movement and constant distraction. As an exercise, that's good. Exercise as much as you want. But when it comes to yoga, try real yoga for a change. And you notice it's very different. It's in fact the opposite of what is mostly called yoga. Now there are so many certified yoga teachers, and yet they don't know. They don't know even the word sattva. They don't know Hatha Yoga Pradipika and what it means. And sometimes they have studied a little bit about the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, but then, like in elementary school or middle school, high school, they just memorized some text, which you know now is very confusing because it's symbolical language. You can memorize it without knowing anything, without understanding anything. So Hatha Yoga Pradipika, the science of harmony through the control of the sun and the moon. Okay, Sutra 11. After the introduction of Nadishadana Pranayama, one should practice well kumbhakas 4 times a day. In the early morning, midday, evening and midnight, gradually, till they number 80 each time. Now, practical remark, you noticed a grammatical error in the translations, because it was translated from Dutch to English by a Dutch person, a guy, I think. The word kumbhakas has an apostrophe S, which in English is possessive. So it doesn't make sense. In Dutch, however, apostrophe S is plural. When a word ends in a consonant with an S, then it means plural. So you must have been a little bit confused if you paid attention. Now you know why. It was translated by a Dutch cheesehead. Kumbhakas are referring to pranayama exercises. The kumbhakas will be mentioned many times like this, but you will see, like with Shiva Shakti, Sun Moon, Ida Pingala, the author of the book tries to create some certain confusion by talking about the same object or subject using different words. Again, he will also say many times, you need to learn this under the guidance of a guru. So everything starts to make sense. Difficult to read this on your own and understand it. It will just give you a headache, which it has given me in the past when I tried to read these kind of yoga books without any guidance from Ajita. We referred to this last week already because somebody was smart enough to ask the question, how many times do you need to practice? Svatmarama tells you here to try it out in the early morning, midday, evening and midnight. It is not that he means that you should practice 4 times a day. But this is a new exercise and it is about your energy circulation. Energy is everything. The way you function is determined by energy. The way you feel, your mood, is determined by energy. You feel different at night as opposed to how you feel in the middle of the day. You feel different in the morning as opposed to how you feel in the evening, because energy is constantly fluctuating, constantly changing. In the morning, the sun rises, the birds fly out of their nest, the flowers open up, you open your eyes, like it or not. Even if you want to sleep until 12 o'clock, you can't, because Shakti rises. Shakti dominates in the morning. That increases to rise until noon and a little bit into the afternoon, but many people will recognize that around 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, you go to the coffee machine in your office or at home, you drink a cup of coffee. Why? Because Shakti slowly starts to decline and Shiva takes its place. Shiva slowly starts to dominate, preparing for the night. In the evening, Shakti more and more declines, Shiva dominates more and more. You start to yawn. The birds go back into their nest. The flowers close. Shiva dominates. You go to bed. That is a natural cycle. And it has everything to do with energy. The waxing and waning of energy that you see everywhere in nature, even with the ocean that is going up and down, and the climate going from cold to hot and back again. When you practice pranayama in the morning, when Shakti is dominating, it will affect you differently than it does when you do it at noon. And again differently than it does when you practice in the evening or even at midnight. This is a new exercise, but it is an exercise based on subtle energy. So already it is not easy to grasp what this is about. Many people will even say, "What are you talking about? What energy?" That is nonsense. I can do a tree pose, I can do a triangle pose. That I can grasp, that is, I can visualize, I can feel it. But energy. So, if you practice pranayama, you don't have to do it 4 times a day, but try now and then to practice at another time than you usually do. If you usually practice in the morning, try it also one time in the afternoon or in the evening. The point is that you notice consciously that it makes you feel different. That is when you, if you were in doubt, if you were skeptical, that is when you realize that it actually really affects you. And it is not even subtle anymore once you experience that. The impact is real, concrete. But you only notice if you experiment. You have to play, you have to experiment, try it out at different times of the day. Then, the final phrase of this sutra, gradually, underline the word gradually, it will come back in one of the next sutras, even 3 times in one sutra. Gradually is very important. Don't rush anything. Here it is about building up the count. We started with 12, 48, 24, 48, based on a ratio of 1, 4, 2, 4. We keep that ratio and gradually build up until influx reaches the count of 80. You end up, in the long term, it takes a couple of years to build it up gradually. You will end up with a count of 80, 320, 160, 320. And in my experience, that takes about 45 minutes to complete one cycle of pranayama. Sutra 12. In the first stage, there is perspiration. In the second, tremor is felt throughout the body. You can actually ignore this phrase between square brackets throughout the body. In the highest stage, the energy goes to the chief place, Brahmarandra. So one should control the energy. The phrases in between brackets have been added in later ages, later centuries, by interpreters of the text. Some of these additional phrases, some of these additions are helpful, like Brahmarandra. It clarifies something. But when the editor in later stages adds throughout the body, in between square brackets, it shows that this editor did not understand that this is about energy. He did not understand the meaning behind the symbolism. Let's have a look at the text again. In the first stage, there is perspiration. In the second, tremor is felt. And in the highest stage, the energy goes to the chief place, Brahmarandra. So, one should control the energy. Brahmarandra is the crown chakra, the chief place. That is important. It is the goal of yoga. Because the goal of yoga is to cultivate people, to educate people, to elevate the spirit, which is located in the crown chakra, the chief place, Brahmarandra. Why is that important? Because there is located intuition, wisdom, insight, vision, all the wonderful characteristics all human beings possess, but in most people they are not fueled by energy and therefore remain dormant. They remain asleep. Why is this so important, and why do we come back to this all the time? Because people who cultivate, who civilize, as a result of letting energy rise through education, through practice, all spiritual practices, if you look at them, have this as a purpose. People who develop in this way behave in a totally different way. They start to care about other human beings. They start to care about society, community, environment. People whose energy is at lower levels, without intuition, vision, wisdom, etc., what do? They go to war. They destroy people, communities, and the environment. So that is hugely important. Your modern day government does actually the same by forcing you to go to school soon after you can walk. You go to preschool, then you go to, what is Yuchiwon? Kindergarten, then you go to elementary school, middle school, high school, and if possible, college, university. It's not about getting a job. That is what it has become. It's about civilizing people so that we stop killing each other, destroying the world around us, so that we stop behaving like animals. Actually, animals do not even behave like that. That is why it's important. Now, what do you see here? You see a structure here. Rajas, Tamas, Sattva. Remember last week? Because it was mentioned in the explanation, Sutra number 9. Energy should be drawn in by the same entrance through which release was made. Then, having retained the energy to the utmost, till covered with perspiration or till the body shakes, it should be released by the other. You see the same structure here. Perspiration is not literally sweating. This is about energy. Sweating is, of course, accompanied by energy. What kind of energy? Shakti energy. When you move a lot, when you do strenuous exercise or strenuous work, you start to sweat as a result of rajas, domination of Shakti energy. The tremor or trembling is when you're cold and shivering and tired. That is a tamas condition, Shiva domination. What is this about? This is about trying to find sattva. And because a human being has a natural tendency to be in tamas, you start with rajas, perspiration. So first you are low, first you go up, but you overshoot the goal, then you add a little bit of Shiva, a little bit of tamas, and you end up in the middle. Remember this. When you do this in a normal human way, you're either active or you're resting. So you're always going up and down, never in the middle. That is why yoga is the science of control. That is why you're standing still and not moving. You move, rajas, you feel good, but inevitably you become tired because of that movement. Whether it's work or sports or any kind of activity. So, first you're high, rajas, then tired, tamas. With yoga, you do things in a very measured way, standing still, observing also the principle of non-violence. Because staying too long in a pose is violence, creates rajas, leads to fatigue and thus tamas. So to end up in the middle, we need gradual approach. And we need first to kickstart the process by adding Shakti through controlled movement, standing still. Or in this case, we're talking about a higher level of control, energy control. You start with Nadi Shodhana Pranayama, you start with Shakti in, Shiva out. So perspiration, not literally, but Shakti condition, Shakti domination. The second cycle, you have Shiva in, Shakti out, and you end up in the middle, which makes energy rise up, the Kundalini effect, and you end up in the chief place, Brahmarandra, the crown chakra. This sounds like a fairy tale, it sounds like a mystery from an ancient time, but it is this process that causes every yoga student to change considerably in even a short time. We're halfway in the course, and I know with almost 100% certainty that all of you, each and every one of you, have noticed change. Change in how you feel, change in how you perceive yourself and the world around you. Because more and more energy goes to the crown chakra. Brahmarandra, the chief place, as it is called in this sutra. Sounds like a fairy tale, it sounds very mysterious, but it's real and concrete. 13th sutra, rub on the body the perspiration resulting from fatigue. By this, the body derives firmness and lightness. The perspiration again here is a rajas condition. That is the condition that we are in when we are active. Most of us generally are too much active. That is why we age. That is why oxidation occurs. The opposite of oxidation is anti-oxidation, antioxidant. That is a word that is used very much these days when it comes to food. They tell you to eat red berries and chia seed and whatever, all these kind of foods, because they are antioxidants. What you really need to do is try to slow down a little bit in life. Stop being so busy. It's good to work, it's good to have to do the things that you have to do, but try to be a little bit less busy. That is rubbing in the perspiration. It's symbolical language for allowing the Shakti energy to settle down a little bit. Do not always walk on the tips of your toes. Slow down, relax, take it easy. Ideal for a yogi, and I'm pretty sure more and more you will feel the need, is to have a part-time job. That's not always possible, but sooner or later in life you will find an opportunity to reduce the hours in which you have to be busy, whether that is work or anything else. People feel this naturally, but here it is explained why. It's very important. It determines how you feel, it determines your well-being, it determines your happiness. It explains also why we live in a society where so many people are stressed. Stressed, unhappy, grumpy, depressed. We don't take time We don't give ourselves the opportunity for energy to just settle down and relax. By this, the body derives firmness and lightness. That is not symbolical, that is literal. You become healthier. People who are in a constant state of exhaustion because of a constant state of Shakti domination as long as they are awake, they look older than their actual years. Oxidation is like rust with iron. Iron, rust. That is literally an oxidation process. Oxidation means burning up. There are no flames. It's a very slow process. But that happens with your cells too, with your muscles, with your bones, with your organs. That is why the pharmaceutical industry is the biggest industry in the world, or one of the biggest. That is why hospitals are so busy. Clinics. Big, big business. If everybody more and more starts to control, takes time, relax, settles down, they go out of business. Not really, of course. They will always be needed. Pharmaceutical industry, the medical industry will always be needed. But we can reduce enormously our need for medical help by not getting sick anymore. Because getting sick is caused by a disturbance in our energy circulation. Fourteenth Sutra. In the early stages of practice, food mixed with milk and ghee is prescribed. But when practice has advanced, such restrictions need not be observed. Milk and ghee, they are the power foods of the ancient people. Full of protein, fat, vitamins and minerals. These days you buy a can of Red Bull or some energy drink or something, or you drink a cup of coffee. No, but what Pranayama is telling us here is that, you come from a normal, regular daily life and suddenly you dedicate yourself to intense practice of yoga. The change that occurs, the change in different activity that you are performing, and the intensity of it in the beginning stages, your body needs to adjust a lot. That takes extra energy. So the advice is here, take those power foods, but you will see after a while you have adjusted, then it is not necessary anymore. But this does not only apply to yoga practice. This applies to everything in life. You change jobs, or you start a new job after graduating. There's a total change in your life taking place that requires larger amounts of energy than you usually spend. I noticed last year, a little bit too late, adopting a dog, suddenly becoming busy with a lot of stress also because of the dog in the beginning being basically a wild dog. I lost 7 kilos of weight. And it happened in that sense I'm kind of stupid because it's the third time that I became malnourished in the past 20 years. You know what I did? I did exactly this. I started eating like 6-7 times a day with milk, with yogurt, with lots of protein foods, nuts. I would make once a week or once every 2 weeks, I would make a big pan full of bread pudding. You know what bread pudding is? Very delicious. You put bread and cream, heavy cream, and eggs, and it becomes bread pudding with half a kilo of sugar. Very delicious and full of calories. So for about a month or two, I keep stuffing myself, and in the beginning I don't gain weight, and then suddenly I start gaining weight, and then suddenly I think, oh, I should stop. But actually stopping happens very natural. You just don't want to eat anymore. So you cut out the bread pudding, and then the next thing you cut out this, and then you cut out that, very naturally actually. What I did before, I tried to eat within an 8-hour window. It's kind of a fasting. So you have your first meal 8 o'clock in the morning. Usually that was an apple. And your last meal, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Then for 16 hours you don't eat. Between 4 in the afternoon and 8 in the morning, you drink only water or tea, no food. So that's okay if you're not so busy. I have to reinvent the wheel time and time again. Something changes, I forget to adjust my diet in accordance with Sutra 14, and I find myself losing weight too much. What is not good about this, you think losing weight is good, but you get sick when you lose too much weight. You really get sick. Not just a flu, but just your organs start to protest. Like heart rhythmic disturbance in the heart rhythm, the kidneys, the liver, etc. So advice not to be ignored. And it is a nice excuse to eat your favorite foods. French fries, bread pudding, cookies. 15. As the lion, elephant or tiger is tamed gradually, underline or highlight gradually, even so should energy be brought under control, else it will kill the practitioner. Yoga works wonders. Pranayama works miracles. But don't be greedy, don't be in a hurry, take your time. Try to be content, practice contentment, which means you're satisfied. You practice, of course you have a goal, you want to achieve something, you want to change or you want to develop. But try not to focus too much on that change, because then you become impatient and you start to rush things. And you start also to become discontent, unsatisfied. Because you want things to happen yesterday, not tomorrow or next week or next month. That is just human psychology. We're all the same. We want change, we want it now. Not tomorrow, not next year. So gradually means actually enjoy what you do. The results will come naturally, even more than you expect. However, when you try to rush it and you're impatient and not satisfied with what you achieve, actually you also diminish the result of all the work that you're doing. And part of creating wellness or well-being, happiness and health is to just let everything go. Because energy is very much influenced by your mental state. If you are not content, energy flow is restricted. If you're dissatisfied, if you're impatient, if you are greedy, these are all states of mind that that squeeze your energy circulation. The reason why you learned about contentment, control of your desires, is to let energy circulate. Now that we have started pranayama, it becomes even more important. So underline or highlight the word gradual. Lion, elephant, or a tiger, wild animals. I applied this principle to Pada and Babi, and still, I never raised my voice or my hand, just gradually. A wild animal, why do we call them wild? Because they have instincts. They need to feed, so they kill another animal or a human being, so we call them wild. But they are the same as we are. They also have Mooladhara Chakra and Swadhisthana Chakra and what have you. If you understand that, you understand animals. You know, there are videos on YouTube where somebody swims with a crocodile, somebody hugging a big grizzly bear. Wild animals, how do you make friends with them? By reducing their fear in Mooladhara Chakra. So first of all, you have to feed them very regularly. Create routine, just like with children. Feed them. So their instinct to kill, which is only survival, to feed, to eat, is diminished. Then be very regular in activities that you employ. And very patient, gradual. Over time, the animal starts to trust you and he expects you to feed. That is how you can befriend a tiger, a lion, a crocodile, any animal or any human being for that matter. You know, you get tired of me talking about the dogs, but they give perfect examples. Babi was dying after Pada was adopted because she was depressed. So because they lived, since birth, they lived together for about a year. Their mom was taken away from them. 2 other brother and sister were taken away from them. And then they were separated. Pada ran away after 4 days, going back to the center. He never reached that center. Babi became depressed, stopped eating. I put a post on Facebook where you can see Babi 3 weeks after I adopted her. She's like a shrimp, so tiny. It just makes me want to cry. I coincidentally found that photo. The panic in her eyes also still there. What I'm trying to tell, let's keep it short. What they did in the center when Babi became, when she missed Pada and became rebellious, they tried to force her. They put a muzzle on her nose and so she can't bite, so they can do anything with her. And she started to resist more and more until they gave up. And they didn't take her out of her cage anymore. She just stayed in a cage 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. While other dogs, they have all kinds of activities. And they take them out 2-3 times a week or so. There are volunteers that do those kind of things. Babi, they had given up. She would have died, maybe because she's young, she would hang in there a little longer, but she was on her way to die, simple as that. That's this. You know, one of the CDs is they say you'll be able to talk with animals. You don't talk with animals with words, you talk with animals with feeling, with how you behave, with how you interact. You crawl into the skin. You understand the animal's needs. It's a bit shocking that people who are specialists at working with animals do not have that ability. They didn't understand why Babi became so rebellious, and or maybe they understood but didn't know how to handle it. I immediately saw it. Why? Because of yoga. Yoga gives us all we need to know. Gradual. Take your time. Be soft. Be loving. Create stability, routine, and everything will gradually be all right. Again, we use the word gradually. Through the proper practice of pranayama, there is freedom from all diseases. By a mistaken course of yoga, the practitioner brings all diseases upon himself. Well, you see in Ajita's comment that he indeed had various issues as a result of the wrong approach or doing breathing exercises as opposed to energy control before he discovered pranayama to be energy control. But simple yoga in general, and thus also pranayama, leads to increased health. You'll notice that you get sick much less than other people. The country has a flu wave 2-3 times a year. It's not that you will never get sick anymore, but often when other people get sick, you see that actually you don't get sick. And instead of 3 times a year, maybe only once a year. And you also see that when people get older, without being able to help it, they develop one disease after the other. We call them old age diseases. That is natural, that is the flow of life, that is the rhythm of life, but you can take control of that. Yoga is a way of maintenance, like you do with your car. If you maintain your car on a regular basis with fresh oil, engine oil and what have you, filters, replacing the filters and what have you, the car will last much longer in a good condition. A human being is just like that. So you see also the mention of proper diet. Food is mentioned often in chapter 1 and chapter 2. The food, of course, is important. If you have a Porsche, for example, with a very powerful engine, and you put in very poor gasoline, the energy will not perform. It might even explode. So you have to put in good quality fuel, gasoline. Then the engine will perform very well. You are like a car, like a Porsche. Put in the right food in combination with the right exercise, and your performance will improve. You'll be brighter, you'll be smarter, you'll be more energetic, and you'll also be happier, healthier, and more generally have sense of well-being. A wrong course of pranayama produces hiccup, asthma, bronchial diseases, pains in the head, ears and eyes, and various other diseases. It looks like a Swatmarama here is saying, if you misinterpret my text, if you do not understand that pranayama is energy control, you will end up doing breath control, then don't be surprised that you will start suffering from these kind of symptoms. Ajita describes that he had headaches and pain in his eyes and what have you. Last week I told you if you try to do the exercise of pranayama as described with inflow, retention, outflow, retention, you'll die. because you can never hold your breath so long, especially after exhaling. So naturally, if you try to pursue that, if you even try, naturally you will end up in trouble. It's simply not possible. 18. One should gradually efflux the energy and as gradually draw it in. One should also restrain it gradually. Thus siddhi is obtained. 3 times gradual in one sentence. Inflow, you count, but you count slowly. Om 1, Om 2, Om 3. Don't rush. If you rush it, the effect is diminished. Gradually. Inflow, gradually. Outflow, gradually. And retention, gradually. Take your time, don't rush it. This applies to everything in life. This is not exclusive to practicing yoga or even practicing pranayama exclusively. This applies to everything in life. That is why some years ago the term mindfulness became a buzzword, a new fashion word. Mindfulness. Mindfulness means doing one thing at a time and doing it with your whole attention, with heart and soul. What happens when you do that is that you connect, you become one with what you do. And therefore the result is much better than it is when you're not mindful. When you do things because you have to, when you do things when you're very busy and you try to multitask. Mistakes always happen when we try to multitask. Even at home, when you're cooking and you try to send a text message and then you find out that your food is burning or boiling over, or multitasking is not. Some people are proud of their ability to multitask, but it never leads to good results. You can do 3 tasks at the same time and all 3 tasks are mediocre. Half-half. It's the same with your practice of yoga. Turn off the TV. If you practice yoga while listening to the news on the TV, yeah, you still do yoga, but the effect is less deep than when you practice in silence. So with pranayama, you are really moving energy. Those of you who have practiced this week a couple of times, or hopefully every day, you have noticed that this is something special. But if you rush it, if you do it in between washing the dishes and another activity, you're still doing it. There will still be some effect. But it is so much better if you do it when fully committed to it, fully focusing on it. Gradually, take your time, don't rush it. And remember, this applies to everything in life. When you start to see that, you develop the power of patience, which most people are talking about but do not possess. But patience is a wonderful tool to fulfill your wishes, your heart's wishes. Without patience, you never reach your goal. And in the meantime, you keep yourself busy with practical things, step by step. That's another matter. But same principle comes back time and time again. 19. When the nadis are purified, there are external signs. Leanness and brightness of the body are definitely produced. This is about the energy channels that in an unconditioned human being are polluted. There are obstacles in our energy channels. We don't notice that because we are not conscious of our condition, but with yoga practice, you become what I call a feel-good professor. Every yoga practitioner becomes a feel-good professor. What does that mean? You're always conscious of your condition, and as a result of that, you always want to be in a good condition. In a very natural way, you will more and more control your activities. You like drinking? Nice. But you start to notice that it affects your condition and your mood. So you reduce it, you take control of it. Don't have to stop drinking, but try to control it. Instead of a whole bottle of wine, you drink 1 glass or 1.5. With food also. Enjoy your delicious foods. But you start to notice that if you eat too much of it, you crash. So naturally, you make some adjustments there. Maybe not tomorrow, it often takes time, because to change habits takes time. So that is what life is about as a yogi. To be as often as possible, as much as possible, at the top of your condition. So naturally you become healthier. The sutra says your energy with less obstacles in the channels will flow more freely, and as a result you notice that you become healthier physically but also mentally. The last one, 20. When one is able to restrain the energy as desired, when the gastric fire becomes more active and the nada is heard, there is perfect health because the nadis are purified. Very interesting. Nada is mentioned here. And yet most yoga teachers do not know about nada, have never heard of it. I've also heard people talk about nada as if being something foreign, something interesting to talk about, but I have no idea that it is in me, that it is part of me. It's mentioned here and it is part of everybody. The sutra implies that if there is more energy, nada will also become clearer. Because nada is the vibration of your energy circulation. Gastric fire is also mentioned here. Gastric fire, that is the 3 chakras in the belly becoming more and more vibrant, more and more energetic. So not to be confused with digestion, because you will see there are sutras where the gastric fire and digestive power are mentioned in the same sentence, indicating 2 different things. And yet often we confuse gastric fire with digestive power. Gastric fire is danjan, is the power of these 3 chakras becoming so big that they in fact stop being 3 separate chakras and become one ball of energy. This phenomenon is so important that whenever you meet a monk, a Buddhist monk, they cannot stop talking about the danjan. Well, I'm exaggerating a little bit, Thomas recognizes it, but that danjan, that is something so mysterious and so amazing, it is one of the things they talk about most. That is this, gastric fire. Become healthier. Questions?
I tried it
Yep.
Before bed, and I've noticed I had difficulty sleeping. Is it a normal thing?
You couldn't go to sleep?
It was hard for me to fall asleep.
Yeah. Practicing before sleep requires a very special approach. You know about yin yoga? The body naturally is in a tamas condition in the evening. So when you go to the gym to exercise, after a long day of work, you come home, you're exhausted, but the next 3-4 hours you can't sleep. What did you do? The natural tamas condition that you enter into in the evening to prepare for the night, for sleep, you have reversed. You have replaced by Shakti, by a Rajas condition. That is why you can't sleep. But if you practice I'm talking about asana, not about pranayama. If you practice asana very mild, very mellow, you will sleep a very deep sleep, very nourishing sleep. With pranayama and meditation, it's very tricky before sleep to meditate and to practice pranayama. But like Swatmarama advised us to do, it's a good experience. Draw the conclusion, maybe try it again, see if you can make it more sattvic. But if it doesn't work, then you know, first of all, that the pranayama works, it changed your condition. And second, better not to do it before going to sleep. Do some asana in a very mellow mood, dim the lights, and after the last asana, don't do anything anymore. After the last asana, just do savasana in bed. Close your eyes, and you'll pass out very soon. At least that's my experience. I made a video years ago. I think it's titled Yoga Evening Routine. But a student in the past made a YouTube channel called Magic Pond. So don't look for the video on my current YouTube channel. It's in the old channel called Magic Pond. The current channel is called Yoga with Ron. The old channel, I don't even have access to it. It's made by somebody else, and I don't know how to. I'm not an administrator. I cannot change things. That's not important. But if you look for the video for practice in the evening, you have to go to the Magic Pond channel. Maybe someday I will make the video again and put it also on the new YouTube channel. Questions? Other questions?
I've got a question about these animals in Sutra 15, the lion and the elephant and the tiger.
Yeah.
In Indian texts, animals often represent certain things, they're often symbolic.
Yeah.
I was wondering if this was actually referring to the three types of energy, like maybe the lion is Rajas and the elephant is Tamas.
No, the word, they are all they're all wild animals that could threaten human existence. And out of the three, the elephant is really tamed and used to work. But if elephants are not tamed, they can clash very seriously with human beings, just destroying a whole village and trampling everything on their way. I don't know, reflect a bit on the text and see if you can find something like that in there. I haven't felt it. It's just the three wild animals that represent strength, danger also, that can be tamed gradually. Okay, let's have a short break.